This alien girl's lady parts suck like slurping spaghetti. The human fled like first contact is a first mistake. Jace Rourke had always been the guy who touched the glowing button. That's why he was alone in a jungle glowing with bioluminescent vines, on a planet no one had bothered to name yet. The rest of his crew was stuck in orbit, their comms scrambled by atmospheric interference, and he'd volunteered, well, insisted, on taking the scout pod down to investigate. Technically, he was there to analyze mineral samples. Realistically, he was chasing the thrill of first contact. He just didn't expect first contact to involve suction. The jungle pulsed with humid life, tendrils waving lazily in the violet-tinted breeze. Every bush looked like it wanted to whisper secrets. Every vine looked vaguely alive, and in the middle of it all stood her. She wasn't wearing much, just a cascade of soft white hair, some kind of shimmering wrap that clung to her skin like liquid silk, and a look of pure curiosity. Humanoid, yes, but not human. Her eyes were solid black, wide and unblinking. Her skin shimmered like nacre, shifting subtly between pale blue and pearlescent green. Jace lowered his scanner slowly. Hi. The alien tilted her head, mimicked his wave, and stepped closer. Her movements were liquid, too smooth, too graceful. Do you understand me? He asked. She responded in a musical trill that made his translator device short out with a confused chirp. Then she smiled, wide, radiant, a little too toothy. Before he could back away, she was right in front of him, fingers brushing his jaw, her other hand slipping around his waist like they were longtime lovers. Whoa. Hey, maybe we start with names? Jace stammered. I'm Jace. Human. From Earth. Not currently looking to. Her lips met his. It was soft at first. It wasn't. Something like a tongue, but segmented and strong, slid into his mouth. Her arms tightened. Jace's eyes widened as the sensation spread. Not pain, but overwhelming suction, like being pulled into a biological vacuum. Her body pressed against his, warm and undulating, and he felt something squirm near her hips. Instinct screamed this was wrong. He tried to push her away, but her grip was stronger than expected. Beneath her elegant outer shell, this woman was built like a hydraulic press wrapped in a velvet glove. With a gasp, Jace wrenched free and stumbled backward, wiping his mouth. She blinked at him, confused, maybe disappointed, and then smiled again. This time, her lower half shimmered, and he saw them. Tentacles. Dozens. Thin, smooth, slick, and slowly reaching toward him like they were tasting the air. Some even made that awful slurp noise, like someone inhaling ramen way too enthusiastically. Oh, hell no. Jace turned and ran. Behind him, he heard the squelching sounds intensify, wet, rubbery, fast. The forest floor wasn't even terrain anymore. It was a death trap of root snags, low-hanging branches, and moist leaves that slapped him in the face. Why is it always tentacles? He gasped, ducking under a vine that tried to caress him. Why can't we meet a nice species that just wants to shake hands and swap snacks? He tripped over a log, hit the ground hard, and rolled. From the corner of his eye, he saw her silhouette, graceful and terrifying, gliding through the jungle like she owned it. Her expression hadn't changed. Still that dreamy smile. Still that suction-ready body language. Jace crawled to his feet and slapped the emergency beacon on his chest. It blinked, no signal. Perfect. He spotted the edge of the clearing where he'd landed. The scout pod was there, lights dim, entrance open, still humming with residual power. If he could make it inside, seal the door, maybe. A tentacle snapped inches from his boot. Jace dove through the hatch, slammed the controls, and collapsed onto the deck just as the airlock hissed shut. Outside, something thumped hard against the door. The pressure seals groaned. He stared at the ceiling, chest heaving. Note to self, no more kissing aliens. Something wet splat against the viewing window. Jace looked up and saw her. She was staring through the glass, unblinking. Her mouth moved. Her fingers traced circles on the surface, leaving a slimy, iridescent residue. Then she smiled again. Jace scrambled to lock every system twice. The jungle wants you. Jace Rourke sat on the cold metal floor of the scout pod, sweat running down his face despite the life support system humming around him. His shirt was torn, his lips swollen, and a tentacle-shaped bruise on his neck pulsed in time with his heartbeat. Outside, it had gone quiet. Too quiet. "She's still out there," he muttered, probably planning second base. He tapped the console again. Still no uplink. The ionized atmosphere was playing havoc with his systems. With no way to reach the Roughneck 2, he was stuck, alone, on a planet where the local version of First Contact meant being suctioned into sexual oblivion. He ran a full diagnostic on the pod. Structural integrity, 87%. Engine, damaged in the crash landing. Comms, scrambled. Escape capability, maybe 15% if he wanted to slingshot himself in a low orbit and pray someone caught the signal. Wonderful, he muttered. Death by alien nookie or death by atmospheric reentry. Great menu. He loaded his sidearm, a compact plasma tool that doubled as a torch, and slung his field kit over his shoulder. He wasn't going to survive by sitting still. Outside the pod, the jungle greeted him with an eerie calm. The vines that once waved lazily now hung limp. The air was thick with humidity and something sweeter, pheromones, maybe. There was a tug at the back of his mind, like a warm hand running fingers through his thoughts. Not today, he growled, slapping a neural stimulant patch on his neck. He moved quickly, staying low, hugging the tree line. He needed high ground, maybe a signal ridge. About 2 clicks east, his helmet scanner registered an anomaly, what looked like a metallic structure half buried in the jungle. He headed that way. The forest pulsed with wrongness. Once, he thought he heard laughter. Another time, he swore the vines were whispering Jace, soft, teasing, feminine. He passed the corpses near the ravine at hour 2. 3 of them. One looked vaguely human. At least, his uniform was similar to older Earth exploration suits. The other 2 were alien, unknown species. All 3 shared one horrifying thing in common. Their lower torsos were shriveled, desiccated, like their insides had been drained. Each of them was covered in a silvery, mucus-like coating. Jace gagged. This wasn't seduction, it was consumption. The beautiful alien woman, Sucka, as he'd nicknamed her, was a lure. A predator designed to attract and entrap. The way her body moved, the suction, the tentacles, it wasn't just mating, it was harvesting. "She's a damn Venus flytrap with boobs," Jace whispered. The realization lit a fire under him. He sprinted for the anomaly ping, reached it in 20 minutes. It wasn't a structure, not really. A half-buried alien drone, covered in moss and vines, sat slumped against a tree. Its design was nothing like human tech organic curves, glowing seams, symbols that pulse softly. More importantly, it had a relay beacon. Jace pried opened the drone's casing with his multi-tool. Inside, a mesh of living circuits writhed. He hesitated only a second before slicing into the core and plugging in his portable uplink. A low whine filled the air as power fluctuated. Something moved behind him. He turned and froze. Sucka stood at the edge of the clearing, hair glowing faintly in the dim light. She was smiling again. This time her eyes were half-lidded, her body swaying slightly, like she was dancing to a rhythm only she heard. Tentacles emerged from her lower half, curling lazily through the leaves. The same slurping sound as before followed her every step. Jace held up his plasma tool. "Back off. I'm not on the menu." She took a step forward. His legs twitched. The pheromones were stronger here, dense and cloying. His grip wavered. "I'm warning you." She tilted her head. Then she spoke. It was broken, electronic, like a child mimicking recorded audio. "Jace, inside." "No." Jace fired a warning burst into the air. That stopped her. For a moment. Then she lunged. Jace grabbed the drone core, ripped it free, and bolted. Plasma blasts lit the trees behind him. She was fast, too fast. Her tentacles lashed out, nearly catching his boot as he tumbled into a ravine and crashed into the undergrowth. Above, Sucka peered down, expression unreadable. The drone core blinked in his hand, barely functioning. But it was enough. He grinned through the pain. "Next time, buy guy dinner first." Lady Parts of Doom. Jace's shoulder screamed as he hauled himself out of the ravine. drone core still clutched under his arm like a fumbled football. His knees bled, his ribs ached, and his pants were one more stumble away from becoming intergalactic jorts. But he was alive, and he had a plan. The relay drone circuitry was flickering, barely operational, but one subroutine still glowed steady. Pulse override. It was a foreign system, but he understood the shape of it. An energy burst. Not a message. A weapon. EMP, huh? Jace muttered. Let's see how you like being suction-cupped offline. He knelt beneath the gnarled roots of a glowing tree and got to work, rewiring the node's energy loops using his multi-tool and a bit of insulated wire from his own damaged gear. Every few seconds, he checked the tree line behind him. She was close. Sucka, if that was even her name, moved like water, silent and fluid. Sometimes he saw only a ripple in the leaves. Sometimes a glimpse of her glowing hair or the wet sheen of her limbs. She didn't walk. She floated. And she was hunting him now, no longer playing nice. You're just a big, sexy anglerfish, Jace whispered. All beauty up top, all digestive horror underneath. He finished the last circuit and stood. The pulse would disable anything in a 20-meter radius for about 3 minutes. Not enough for a full escape, but enough for a knockout. Maybe even enough to peek into her hive. Because Jace was no longer just running. He was curious. Whatever this species was, they weren't just predators. They were collectors. He'd seen the cocoon bodies, the drone technology. This wasn't just hunting, it was research. He wanted to know why, even if it killed him. He didn't wait long. A rustling sound behind him. Too wet, too heavy. Jace turned as Sucka stepped into the clearing. No smile this time. She was unmasked now. Her predatory elegance dropped for something rawer. Her skin shimmered with translucent mucus, her tentacles flaring open like a grotesque flower. Her mouth was open slightly, showing rows of tiny, hooked teeth like those of a deep-sea fish. Still beautiful. Still terrifying. You are special, she said. Her voice wasn't hers. It came through a patchy translation matrix, drawn from the speech of previous victims. Dozens of voices, all mashed together. Male, female, alien, human. Jace took a slow step backward. Glad you think so. I get that a lot at bars. Usually with fewer tentacles. You will seed many. Strong. Useful. That was enough. Jace pressed the core trigger. Satsum. The drone core exploded in a burst of white-blue energy. The air snapped like static, and everything within range, trees, birds, even Jace, shuddered under the electromagnetic slap. Sucka screamed. It was a horrible, wet, gurgling sound, and she collapsed to the ground, convulsing. Her tentacles flailed wildly, limbs twitching, bioluminescent patches on her skin flickering and dying. Jace didn't hesitate. He sprinted past her, deeper into the jungle, toward the glowing mass he'd seen earlier. A mound of organic structures, pulsing with light. Her nest. The closer he got, the worse it smelled, sweet rot and something metallic. The hive was half-living, like coral made from bone and meat. Inside, cocooned victims lined the walls, dozens, maybe hundreds, all in varying stages of preservation. Some still breathed. Jace gagged but forced himself to keep moving. At the core of the nest sat a terminal, organic, yes, but readable. He jammed his uplink in and began a dump of everything he could copy. Biological data, research logs, even a translation matrix. The logs revealed it all. Sucka's species, the Niren, were a synthetic biological experiment gone rogue. Built to seduce, mate, extract, and clone genetic samples from diverse galactic life. They weren't evil, just efficient. The perfect bioreplicators. And humans, apparently, had just the right combination of adaptability and resilience to make them especially tasty. Jace finished the download and yanked the uplink out just as the hive began to stir. Sucka had recovered. She stepped into the nest, slower now, swaying. One tentacle twitched, sparking slightly from residual EMP damage. You took our future. No, Jace said, arming his last explosive charge. I took your damn spaghetti machine and flipped it inside out. He slapped the charge onto the hive core and ran like hell. The human ran like hell. The hive exploded behind him in a burst of bioluminescent fire. Jace Rourke didn't stop running to admire it. The blast flung chunks of organic material and liquefied alien goo through the air like confetti at the worst party ever thrown. Flames licked at the glowing canopy. Smoke curled upward, thick and shimmering with a green tinge. The jungle itself seemed to recoil, trees shifting, vines retreating, the planet reacting like a living immune system shocked into panic. And somewhere behind him, Sukka screamed. It wasn't just pain, it was rage. Jace bolted through the underbrush, dodging whip-like fronds and snapping stalks. The downloaded uplink clanged against his hip with every step. His breath came in ragged bursts. Every part of his body hurt, and his legs moved only by the momentum of sheer, unfiltered adrenaline. You had to flirt with the murder siren, he wheezed. Could have stayed in the ship. Played cards. Ate freeze-dried nachos. But no. He burst into the clearing where his half-scorched scout pod still waited, its hull blackened, the door slightly ajar. Smoke trailed from the vents, but the auxiliary power was still active. The console inside flickered erratically. Behind him, the jungle roared. Literally. Branches snapped. Leaves convulsed. Something huge and many-limbed barreled through the foliage like a squid-shaped tank on a warpath. Sukka was no longer just beautiful. She had evolved. Her frame had shifted, taller, broader, limbs elongated, her shimmering skin now armored with chitinous plates. Her eyes, once dreamy and deep, now glowed like twin black suns. Tentacles uncoiled from her lower half in full bloom, each tipped with barbs, suckers, and glistening organic tools. She had become the queen of her hive, and she wanted him. Jace! He dove into the pod, slapped the hatch, and slammed into the pilot's seat. The panel spat sparks as he frantically jammed the uplink into the console and hit transmit all. He had just seconds to get the data. Nyron biology, hive schematics, warning protocols to the Roughneck 2. Above the pod, something landed. The hull dented inward. Sukka was on the roof. Jace screamed and powered the thrusters. The pod roared. The console flashed red. The NAV system stuttered. She punched through the viewport. A tentacle lashed inside, wrapping around his leg with terrifying speed and suction. No! Jace screamed, grabbed the emergency plasma cutter from beneath the console, and sliced. The tentacle writhed and shrieked, spurting iridescent ichor across the cockpit. He slammed the thruster override. The pod launched into the air like a drunken meteor. The G-force knocked the breath from his lungs. Sukka's screech echoed through the hull as she lost her grip. Jace caught a final glimpse of her falling, trailing tentacles and fury, back toward the burning wreck of her hive. Get sucked, he muttered. The pod shuddered as it tore through the upper atmosphere. One engine gave out. Alarms blared, but it held. The stars opened up above him. Silence, blessed and vast, filled the void. Then, ping, signal lock. He laughed like a madman as the Roughneck 2 responded. The ship's AI, dry and British, patched through immediately. Incoming transmission, Rourke J. Put on pants and open the cargo bay. I've got a hell of a story. Epilogue, HFY. Debrief took days. The Nyron data was gold, proof of synthetic biopredators, hive-based cloning tech, and the galactic-scale danger they posed. Sukka, or her species, had likely spread farther than anyone knew. Command didn't believe half of it until they saw the footage. Jace became an unlikely hero, the man who survived seduction by death and lived to deliver the data. His report, specifically the line, "Her lady parts were like a Dyson vacuum with feelings," became legend. The memes were brutal. They called him Spaghetti Slayer, the one that got away. Some of the younger cadets even brought noodles to his lectures. But the warning held weight. The Nyron weren't gone, just wounded. And Jace knew, somewhere out there, something like Sukka was rebuilding, training, evolving. He spent his days preparing for the next encounter, studying their biology, enhancing his gear, keeping a bottle of high-grade ion spray beside his bed. And every so often, when the comms crackled wrong or a vine moved too smoothly on an alien world, he ran like hell, just in case.